most people will say, oh, I can't afford that. And that's a knee-jerk typical reaction that really isn't well thought out, and I'll tell you why. Cost can be viewed in two aspects. One is the actual cost of the treatments that you do, and second is the cost of the project and its project development process. Let's take the second one first. In developing architectural treatments and aesthetics for projects, these days you will need to get into a dialogue, and you must get into a dialogue with all the stakeholders of the project. There's the municipalities, there's the state or the county or the province or the local town. Everybody who gets a vote will have an opinion, and you want to make sure that those opinions are solicited and entertained and understood from the get-go so that your project moves in a singular direction forward. That's cost effective, because what you don't want to have happen is get some point down the road, then all of a sudden start asking folks for what their opinion is, and they say, oh no, you didn't consider this, this, or that, and any steps backward in the project development process are costly, both in time and money. So, so these days, people have a lot more empowerment so that they do have an effective voice in getting their opinions considered, well considered. And if you don't do that from the get-go, then if you make some advancements that are contrary to what ultimately you're going to wind up with, then you're going to have a step backward, which is not cost-effective or time-effective. In terms of constructed cost, there's a range of 0 to 100, and you can spend nothing extra for aesthetic treatments and still have a very handsome project if you are creative. If you have a budget for including architectural treatments beyond nothing, you can certainly use that and use richer materials or more of this or that, and that's fine. But in the most economical sense, it's a matter of being creative, not a matter of just throwing money at it. And I'll give you an example. We say we like to use concrete. Concrete is both good and it's the boogeyman, because a lot of people associate concrete with just being a very plain material. Well, it's plain because the person who's using it really wasn't very creative or thoughtful in its use. Concrete's a plastic material, and it can be formed in just about any shape you can consider. It's the designer's prerogative to mush it around any way that is appropriate. So you have a low-cost material that's going to be used, and depending on how you apply concrete or the treatments that you do to concrete with form liners and shapes and chamfer strips and rustications and those kinds of things, you can wind up with a very distinctive element without really costing anything more than you would have if you just poured it in a straight form and taken a walk. So I have a fundamental disagreement with people say, oh, it costs more. It really doesn't cost more. It costs more to have to redo it. It costs more if you have to design the project twice because you didn't consider it appropriately in the beginning of the project. But in terms of construction cost, real construction dollars, it can cost no more or it can cost a little more. But in terms of a very large project, what does that really mean? Suppose you spend an extra 1 or 2% or 3% on additional architectural treatments for a project. Suppose you did. What's the cost of that in view of, say, $100 million job versus what the added value that you get to it and the benefits to quality of life that normally you wouldn't be able to have if you hadn't considered it in the first place. So there's a cost effectiveness and a value added benefit ratio that I think you can argue successfully just about any time. Mira Parkway was built in the 30s and it's now on the National Register of Historic Places. And for me, it's like going to Candyland because there's a series of bridges along the Mira Parkway. Each one is a unique design statement. And they developed the parkway as a driving experience when parkways had a different function in America than what they do today. They really were for pleasure driving. So when you go on the Mira Parkway today, for me, it's like going to Candyland. Each bridge is an elegant design statement, singular piece each. But they're all just concrete. They're all just, except for one or two that have a little stone on it, one of them's got some iron and steel on it, they're really just concrete bridges that are breathtaking in their design. First one's, it's Art Deco, and the next one turns into Art Nouveau, and the next one's Frontier Day, and then each one has an identifiable signature style, but they all look like they belong in the same bin because they're all designed by the same person, and they're all on the same road, and the context in which they sit is singular. But each one is fabulous, but it's just a concrete bridge. So when people say, oh, well, all we got is concrete, well, okay, go look at the bridges on the Merritt Parkway. That's something that blows your mind, and they're just concrete, and they were probably built fairly economically.